Welcome to part 2 of the Classic Game Room HD review of Gran Turismo 5 Prologue. And why do we play video games like this? Because we get to drive fantastic cars at incredible speeds that we wouldn't normally get to do otherwise. As I said in part 1, the greatest thing about Gran Turismo 5 is the cockpit view and the feel of the cars. They definitely got the physics right so that each car feels very different and very unique. Initially, I was disappointed with the car selection in the game, but as I started collecting more and more of the cars, I've realized that because they did such a great job with the cockpit view, you can enjoy each car more. The Corvette has a totally different feel than the BMWs, which in turn have a totally different feel than the Nissan Skylines, or the TVR, or the Integra. And that's the best part about the Gran Turismo series, and this game in particular, is the realism, the feel of the cars, and the fact that it's a lot of fun to drive. Getting credits in this game is a lot harder than it was in Gran Turismo 4. You can't just keep winning the same car over and over again and selling it for 250,000 credits. You can win money in the online races fairly easily and fairly quickly. That's the best way to actually accumulate credits, of course, other than just playing through the regular game, which you're no doubt going to want to play through anyway, because playing through the game is definitely rewarding and a lot of fun. They did an incredible job rendering the dashboards and steering wheels and interiors of each car. Even when you look behind you at the cars behind you, you see the back seats, or depending what car you're driving, maybe the engine. The attention to detail, as I've mentioned before, is just tremendous in this game. I like that they put the navigational screens into a lot of the dashboards. If I had more time, I would have superimposed a Classic Game Room HD review onto them so that perhaps you can be driving in Gran Turismo 5 and watching the Classic Game Room HD review of Ms. Pac-Man on the Atari 7800 at the exact same time, all while in the comfort of your Ferrari at 180 miles an hour. One of the big selling points about Gran Turismo 5 is the inclusion of Ferrari, but no Lamborghini. You do get the Ferrari F40, which is tremendous, and the 430 and the 599. And as we all know, one of the great things about driving games is getting to drive those cars that we couldn't possibly afford in real life. And even if you can afford them, at least you can enjoy the cars without the nuisance of paying for the insurance or the extraordinarily high gas price. So dump that Toyota Prius or Honda Insight and pick up a Ferrari F430. If you really feel the need to destroy the environment any further, you can throw styrofoam cups at chipmunks or something. When you win all of the Class C, Class B, and Class A races, in fact, I shouldn't say win, when you qualify, which is getting third place or higher, you then unlock the Quick Tune menu and the Class S races. Now, I mentioned in part 1 of the review that there's not an extensive upgrade menu system in this game. And that's still correct. You don't buy mufflers, you don't buy wings, or different wheels, or different engine upgrades. You simply do them all in your Quick Tune without purchasing them. When you do this, you raise or lower your car's performance index, if that's the right term. You get performance points. And to compete in certain races, in the Class S races, or in the online events, you have to keep your car within a certain performance point. If you noticed earlier, I was trying to keep my Ferrari under 600. This should be pretty familiar to those of you who play Forza 2 in keeping your car within a certain class rating. And this is fun. This allows you to play around with the modifications a bit and get the car right to where you want it and adjust it to your driving style. Within reason. You can't put a supercharger in there and add 1,000 horsepower and totally change the driving character of the car. Now, as I was saying earlier, the variety of cars in the game is nowhere near as large as it was in Gran Turismo 4, but there's just some great cars. You have the Ferrari F40, the Ford GT40, the TVR Tarmora, which is one of my favorite cars in the game. I really like the way that car drives. Now, I know this is just Gran Turismo 5 Prologue, that they're supposedly coming out with a full Gran Turismo 5 at some point. Here's my top 5 car wish list that I want to see in the completed version of Gran Turismo 5. The Lamborghini Jalpa, or Jalpa, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but that's the car that Rocky was driving at the beginning of Rocky 4, and there was one in an episode of Miami Vice as well. 2, the El Camino. 3, the Subaru Brat. 4, the Datsun Z. And 5, the A-Team van. And maybe for extra credit, you guys could throw in the Cobra Hiss tank, because I think we all definitely want to drive that thing. That would just be the coolest. And you could have the Baroness riding shotgun with you. And I love the interior of this TVR. In fact, both TVRs, they just have very unique, well-designed interiors. I've driven BMWs and Mazdas in real life, and they got the dashboards and the gauges and even the type font on the Mazda instruments. They got those perfect, and that's amazing. I've sadly never driven a TVR. We can't get those over here in the United States. Now, I saw a couple of them the last time I was in England, but they look tiny. I doubt I'd actually even fit into one of them. They look much bigger on screen. In conclusion, the car selection seems small at first, but when you start buying the cars and driving them, I think you get a lot more enjoyment out of each car because the cockpit view and the new improved physics of the game add to the realism. And it's a lot of fun. So if you were driving a Cobra Hiss tank and had the Baroness with you, where would you take her? Like on a first date, you know? Like what kind of stuff would the Baroness be into? Maybe you could drive it to G.I. Joe headquarters and try to run over some of the lame G.I. Joe vehicles because you're driving a cool Hiss tank. Maybe you could just go to Wendy's. You could go through the drive-thru, head back to your place on Cobra Island or wherever. Maybe watch some Transformers.